So here's what we've got today. HZ or HX. I guess we'll find out. Oh, the glass is good. I'm trying to be positive here, because if you look, she's not real flash in the sills. Got a few extras. Ooh, that should make it a lot faster. That's random. It's like an XB Falcon hubcap. The seat. I guess we'll get inside in a second. Ironically, the tailgate's the first thing to rust out, and this is about the only not rusty panel on this one. Oh, that's not a good sign. That's really not a good sign. Why is the carburetor in the back? I think she's been here for a while. Oh, hot wires are cool though, sort of. But geez, oh. What sort of exhaust? Single exhaust. Is she a 6 or an 8? Oh, I was going to say that door's not rusty. Till you see all the bog worms coming through. She's got some filler in her. 435,000. I think that's a Z dash, isn't it? HZ wheel. Oh, she rusty. Rusted there. The rodents have lived in this one for a bit. Oh, I wish I didn't look under there. Look at the holes. Plenum shot. It's got that on there. That's cool, I think. Got the overriders on the bumper. What's that door like? Oh, it's off is what it is. Actually, I think I might just close that back up. Might leave that one there. Worry about that after. Not bolted on. Oh crap. So that 4-barrel is definitely off this car, and she's got some pretty fast looking rocker covers on it, but the rodents have definitely had their way with this one. There's not a lot of good I can tell you about this one actually. Oh, there's a new gasket there, I think. Is that what that is? Oh, she got headers on her. And I'll have to have a look at that plate later. I think it's a Z. I can't hold the bonnet up and look at the same time. Maybe I can get to that plate. HZ. We've got us a HZ V8 column auto something. Right, I'll get him hitched and we'll get out of here. I've got a reasonable amount of air in all of the tyres. I didn't want to go too hard and push my luck in case the aforementioned air released in a very abrupt manner. But I won't worry about the Bobcat just yet. I'll chuck that strap in there. I think I'll just give it a push. Just see if it wants to roll off itself, because it's pretty flat, I think. And the fence will stop it, I think. Talk about retro cool. These old hot wires used to be the duck's guts. How big are they? They're 14s, and even then I got a little nervous putting my face in front of that terrible tyre. It looks like it wants to release at any moment. So now we got him home and off the trailer. We can take a good look around him, but I can tell you, even if you were heavily vision impaired, you'd know this one was around, because I'm about, I don't know, that far back and I can smell it, and the wind's going that way, so that's saying something. These rodents, they clearly can't gyprock, because they can't differentiate one room from the other, or drywall as you call it in the States, because that's their bathroom, clearly. And that is also their bathroom. So they clearly can't put up walls between their bathroom and their bedroom. They've just gone, all of this area here, from there to there, that's all of our bathroom. Mate, it's rank. It is absolutely rotten. But if you want to talk about a different type of rotten, like rusty rotten, you early Holden guys, think of one spot that these HQ through to HZ and WBs rot out. The plenums? Yep, it's rotten. Oh no, I take that back. It's not rotten at all. It's been fixed, except for all that. And what about the other side? Yep, equally rotten. Bottoms of the quarters near the wheels, that was always rotten. And you look and go, well, that's not that bad, till you get to there. But the real impressive bit is, look at that sill. It doesn't look right, does it? That's because it's not. It's just a thin piece of sheet metal screwed over the top of the rust. So that's fixed. Look, tech screw, tech screw. There's about 20 tech screws screwed up that way, holding that flat piece of sill on. Yeah, and it's body filled on there, so they put body filler to join it at the top and tech screws at the bottom, so at least that bit's perfect. Where else do they rust? Bottoms of the guards, clearly fixed. How about bottoms of the quarters and tailgate? Bottoms of the quarters. There's nothing left. And it just keeps going. The tailgate, however, is almost mint. Clearly not the tailgate off this ute. Best panel on the car, and that's saying something. I did clean out a bit of the rubbish that I didn't need. We kept a few of the Holden parts, and of course the XB hubcap. Oh, was somebody thinking the bottom of the windscreen and the back of the, I don't know, what's that, top of the quarter panel? That's all body filler. So that's fixed as well. And that's fiberglass, so we've alternated between fixing techniques. Yep. Moderation. You want to use body fills somewhere and fiberglass in other spots. And then nothing. My personal favourite is the tech screwed sill panel. What's it mean when you can look down through the quarter and see your foot moving? You get the picture. I'm saying it's not great. But let's get this bonnet off and see what we've got to work with, because what's under the bonnet, hard to believe, but it's the best bit of the whole car. Except for maybe the hot wires, they're mint. If you owned a Tirana back in the 80s, you know what I'm saying. They were the wheel to have. SLRs with 10-inch on the rear and 8-inch on the front. You were the duck's guts. They might clean up alright too. We'll get this bonnet off. And I think I already mentioned, this is a quick release bonnet. In other words, it's not bolted on. So it's not going to be hard to remove. And I sort of rushed through under here, but I did kind of notice there was a few things missing. I was sort of in a bit of a hurry when we picked it up. It's getting late, it was going to get dark quick, but obviously the elephants, well, there's plenty of elephants in this room, but, well, just big rats, maybe not elephants. But the distributor's missing, or the cap and leads, except for those two. So at least we've got two. And the carburetor. That's the one I'm worried about. Rats look like they've been living down in there. And I don't know if you know much about rodents, but their pee is what corrodes all that. So if it's this bad on the outside, is it that bad on the inside? And I've got to be honest with you, at this point, the only value in me buying this is exactly what you're seeing in front of you, which is kind of sad in its own right. First thing I wouldn't mind finding out what we're working with. Is it a 253 or a 308? Now, they are exactly the same dimensionally on the outside. They'll have it written on the side of the block. But there's one telltale sign I'm going to take a wild guess at. And you Holden guys will know where I'm going with this one, but that's an aftermarket manifold. But this in the back is a standard 2-barrel carburetor. So I already have my suspicions of what I'm going to see written on the block down there. And I can't remember if it's left side or right side. Geez, I'm glad that didn't fall out when we're towing down the road. I didn't see that. That obviously belongs to the hinge. But we'll find that out soon enough, I guess. First things first, I guess, is get the vacuum in the top of this motor. I can get rid of that. Sort of wondering if they were planning on pulling it out, because there's a few things disconnected. The mounts and headers are all still intact. Did they only just put the manifold on and never get it running? That would explain that not done up. Would explain a distributor not quite finished off. So I guess we're going to completely discount the firing order, because there's no cap and leads. So I guess we're kind of starting from scratch on this one. Alright, let's stop talking and get something done. Might seem like a really strange place to start, but I'm actually going to remove that gasket first. And no, I'm not that optimistic. I think I'm going to reuse it. It's just I want to clean that surface up with a wire wheel. And I figure I'll make a mess. Yeah, make a mess. I figure I'll make more of a mess before I start cleaning him down. That's actually got a carby plate on it too. That's not actually the manifold, that's a plate. I don't think I want to get into that. I'll just clean that up. That'll make all the difference, I would imagine. I hope I didn't get any dust down that manifold. Said I didn't want to get into it, however, it leaves me no choice. But it's barely bolted down. I would say if that holly in the back is the carb they tried to use, that's only on there because the linkages tend to hit, although there's plenty of space there. I guess we'll find out. Never know, I might be able to reuse the gasket. It looks fine. Doesn't smell fine. Yeah, I know. So it's a spread bore manifold. You see what I mean by spread bore? The back section's wider than the front section, so that's actually the wrong plate then. You'll see that's square bore to square bore. Generally your spread bore to square bore have the same cutouts there. Doesn't really matter that much. I can't imagine this being affected by it. It's not exactly a performance motor right now. It's not even a motor. But anyway. It might seem a bit odd air blowing down the ports, but most of the valves will be shut, so they're a dead end and it's going to blow back up so the vacuum can grab it. And the ones that aren't dead ends, well, they're already open, probably already had mice or rats in them. But we'll worry about that when we get the plugs out. I'll get the plugs out, do the same to the cylinders, try and blow them out, and hopefully any debris from in the cylinders is going to get out before we start trying to wind the thing over. I'll get a few of these. I don't even know what they are. What are they? Berries, whatever. Used to be fruit, I don't know. Get a bit of that off the top of the manifold. These finned rocker covers sure were instrumental in the rats storing their turds. They've lined them up perfectly down the fins. That's excellent. So they're filthy rats that can't differentiate their rooms, bedroom, bathroom, but they're very organised. They can organise shit. Yeah, literally organised shit. I didn't even know I did that one. I do love a good dad joke, and I reckon that's a cracker. You'd be like, hey, do you know that rats are good at organising shit? See? Organised shit. Dad jokes 101. I thought this was quite a flat manifold. Nope. Nope, it's not. Look, that's like 70 mils of crap. So is that the same? You watch, I'm gonna hit one of these in a minute and I'll go straight down there. That's called efficiency. Oh my god. I don't know what that was and I don't want to know. But whatever it was, there's the rest of it. So I feel like I'm fighting a losing battle. I'm just not getting, it's not sucking up. It's that deep, it's just not sucking up. But here's the thing. I didn't pay much for this ute, but from what you've seen, it's not worth much. It's worth absolutely nothing if that doesn't run. Literally, I've paid too much for it if that motor doesn't run. So as bad as this one looks, I actually want to go fairly careful with it, just so I don't ruin it. So before I knock plugs out, try and turn it over. I wouldn't normally do it, but I think I'm going to give it a bit of a quick hose off and just really hit that with some acid or something like that, and just give him a real quick pressure clean down, so I can give him the best chance of when I open it up, rocker covers off, plugs out, I'm not contaminating it even further, because otherwise, like I said, I've paid too much for this. So all well and good in the YouTube world to get it running how it's sitting, but we're still going to do that. I'm just going to try and, I don't know, a little bit of insurance that maybe I don't make it worse on the way. I don't know. Let's just do that. I'll just get some acid, pressure clean it down, maybe even pressure clean the other bathroom with the doors open, and then it's covers off, plugs out, turn it over. Let's do that. I'll grab it. Oh, and I forgot about that. But that's barely bolted on. But I'll grab a few things out of inside first. Maybe that rubber mat. And drain. Oh, check this out. Get a go at the speak. They have put a massive metal plate behind that speaker. That's a pro install tip. Pro install tip, that one. Pioneer 100 watt. Has she got a flash stereo? Oh yes. It's actually a cassette player. I'll see if that works later. For now, I'll get anything that's good. There's one rocket cover gasket and one headlight surround, and then pull that mat out. Ugh. There you go, everything that's good. I didn't really need to unscrew that, it's just that rotted. I'm glad I didn't need to unscrew that. I wonder if I can get in the glove box. Was it a different key, you Holden guys? That's the ignition. Oh, does it even need a key? No, it doesn't. What is that? Valve Master. Hey, that's actually giving me a bit of confidence. As strange as that is, that's actually giving me a little tiny bit of confidence. I'm glad I opened that now. And there's some wheel nuts. So I guess I don't need those keys. Best bit is they work. It's even got the clip on it. Oh. Now it's mint, we're fully functional. Except for the fact that door is pretty much hanging off, that is. But, shut that, oh. More wheel nuts. At least I know where to find some wheel nuts. Right, I'll roll him back. I might leave that there for the time being, because there's probably going to be a round two. But I can tell you, I did give that a fair whack And it looks a hell of a lot better. Me being me, I always got carried away with the pressure cleaner. I do like my pressure cleaning. It's the cheapest thing that you can make probably the biggest improvement doing. First thing I want to do, just jump under there and see what we can see on this block, see what it is. I know I have my suspicions by that 2-barrel carburetor in the back, but let's see. And there she is, in all of her glory. She had 253. And I'm sure there's a few of you Holden guys out there that love your numbers. Probably could have told me if I'd just shown you this. It says engine L32, trans M40, and axle. Is that G or C? GU4 or CU4, I'm not sure. L32, you know, somebody could have told me it was a 253, but these have been around that long. You never know, and there's a few aftermarket bits hanging around it, headers and intake, you never know. But 253. And I've still got a bit of a question mark in my own head, because after I found this one disconnected, you look over there, that hose is disconnected as well. There, the distributor cap is off, the leads are off, the carby was off. I'm still thinking, was it coming out? Is this as far as they got pulling the thing out? I don't think it was going back in. Number one, it's not painted, that's the first thing you'd probably do. And number two, look at that oil filter. That ain't going back in. I did find a couple of things though. It's got the transcooler lines are not through the radiator, they're blocked off. It's got a, oh, did I miss that? Did I not clean that? It's got a very filthy transcooler on it. And at 281,000 kilometers, it had a transmission service in 1993. So that transmission's brand new. Well, no, it's serviced at 281,000, about 152,000 k's ago. But we'll stop mucking about. I'll knock these plugs out, start seeing if we can roll him over and get something done. My tape worked amazingly well, I think. I know I have a second. Oh Christ, can't even talk and pull a lead at the same time. Single use only my brain is. No multitasking here. Now I have got a set of spark plugs for a 308 or a 253 Holden, because I know I put a set of plugs in the Statesman, the 308 Statesman that we had. So even if these are absolutely destroyed, pretty bad, that one's broken off, so it's no good. But look at that. That's about as fouled up with fuel as you're gonna get, so maybe that's why there was that issue, no carburetor. Maybe we had a lot of carburetor issues, called the motor dead and went to pull it. Look at that center one. And they're not wet, so that's fuel for sure. Black plugs and carburetor missing, carburetor in the boot. You must be some sort of genius to say it was fuel related. No, you know what I mean. I've obviously had dramas with the carburation side. Carburation? Is that a word? Carburetor. Carburetor side of things. Oh well. That one's not black, because it wasn't firing at all. Same again. I've given up saying it's black. Same again, because you're getting the gist. They're all black, right? Sad bit is, this was somebody's pride and joy at one stage. If you were, I don't know, if you had your P's in the early 90s, even into the early 2000s, you're, you know, 20 years old, late 20s. Oh crap. That's water, and a lot of it. What I was going to say was this would have been your pride and joy. 253 HZU, sounded okay through a decent exhaust, had a stereo and some speakers in it. You're as cool as cat shit. I actually had a mate I was about 13 years old, lived 2 farms over from us, to drive past every morning on the way to work while I was waiting for the bus. He had a 253 HZ, can't remember if it was auto or manual, but the back hot wires hung out the back. That, I don't know what size rim, it was big though. It was cool. That is not as cool as my mate's hotted up HZ with his hot wires. That's water. And of course, it's the hardest cylinder to get at. So I would say that valve there is one of the ones that is open. We were going pretty good until that point. Alright, let's knock these covers off. Tap a few valves, make sure that's not holding our valve train, and then see if we can roll him over. Now I'm using the old watery plug as a pointer. Do that, do that, do that, whatever. Let's go. So every hole's going to get a little bit of compressed air. Valve shut. Wait for it. If that's any indication, I'll just wait for me old mate the compressor to shut up. Even if I did trickle a tiny bit of water down there, that's rusty mud. That's been in there for a while. So to that. So number 1, is it? Number 2 is our other. That's our other cylinder or valve that's open, and it's an intake valve because you can see it coming back through the intake manifold. How you tell 1 from 2? Cylinder 1's always going to be the furthest forward on a V8 because you've got 2 conrods on the one journal. It's whichever one's further forward is going to be slightly forward, and you can see this head is slightly behind the front of that head. So cylinder 1, 2, 3, 4, that, like that. That'll become more evident when we need to time the damn thing. We'll go through that later. I'm counting to 6 with each cylinder. I've even got that in the plug hole. Counting to 6 because we obviously need perfectly even amounts of WD. I might count to 106 on the back one. So that's, what did I say, 1, 2, 3, that's 7. I only have to keep reminding myself because I've been working on a Ford as well. And they're numbered different. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 up this bank. So being these pistons are on a bit of a lean too, like the top of the piston's not sitting like that, I'm trying to aim high at the back of the piston so it runs down. It's going to make all the difference. No, like I said, I'm usually, I've got nothing to lose, I'll just give it a rip. Nah, well I do have something to lose on this one. It's not worth anything if this motor doesn't run, and that means it owes me too much. 99, 100. I said 106, didn't I? So normally I just go to ripping on the fan belt in a funny way I want to. However, if you actually give a stuff about what you're trying to save, and I do, I want to try and keep this motor. Valve covers off, tapping on valves, WDing down the guides and around the valve stem seals, because if they're stuck and you start cranking on it, there's a slight chance you're going to tear the valve seals, the rubber valve stem seals. Or if you have got a really stuck valve, you could bend push rods, lift rocker studs out if they're press-in studs, or just, it won't roll over, it'll just lock up solid. If you don't believe what I'm saying, go back to the HK. That's exactly what I did because I really didn't care about that one. But this one I do. Rocker covers off. So if this isn't the sketchiest thing you've ever seen, I've got that, into a socket, into that, which is totally the wrong bit, but so I can jam it in the drill, because I already feeling like I wasted too much time washing, but then that's going to fall apart really easy. So I'm going to tape it to be completely shonky. Even that didn't go well. And I'll bet you I still can't get at any of them. Can't get at that one. Can't get at that one. That didn't work at all. Round 2 of the shadiest tool you've ever seen. So far, so good. I say this would have been somebody's pride and joy. You Holden guys, how much were these covers? They weren't cheap. I remember them when I was a kid. They were definitely not something I had, so they would have been expensive. God, I'm making that look hard. Alright, so, no, the gasket is not new. And yes, they've been on there for a while because that's a lot of baked on shit. But I can tell you, that doesn't look anywhere near as bad as I expected. What's that? It's just floating around in the head. Oh, look, that's come away from the cover. That should be there. It's broken away. There you go. I'll tell you what, those rockers feel pretty bloody good and they're not messed up. We'll get that one off. Oh, that one come off easy. Look, metal's gone out of that one too. So here's the theory here. I want to try and lube up the valve stem oil seals so they don't tear when the valve tries to slide, and hopefully if I can get enough lube around that base of that valve and that stem seal, it'll lube the guides as well, just ever so slightly. And then I'm just gonna see how they're bouncing open, so they're bouncing off the seat. And of course the one I can't get a swing at's the one I need to. The idea there, I guess, is what I didn't do with the HK in previous episodes. I didn't care, I just tried to roll it over thinking I'd break them free. But I think some of the valves in that one stuck pretty hard because I actually lifted a rocker stud out. These are not studded, these are bolted. So you probably got less chance of lifting one, but I don't want to break the valve stem seals if I can help it. And they don't look that bad, so shut up and just hit the valves, Michael. Just shush. So I'm just going to mark this balancer at any old spot. And I'm not doing that for top dead center or anything like that. I'm just doing that to see if I can get a full rotation. We want 2 full rotations technically. But right now I'd be happy with any rotation. So let's just see if I can get him off the fan. Get a bit of this junk out of the way. What's that got? That's an overflow. What the hell's it doing up there? Get out there. Oh, straight up it's going to move somewhat. Wouldn't you know it? Guess which one's stopping? Well, guess which one's opening? Hole number 7, that's the one I'm worried about. I'm going to get tricky. Oh. Oh, geez. I thought I'd actually stuck that. So it's catching on something because I couldn't get it back then. I'm going to rotate it full one way, full the other way, mark both spots and see if I'm making any progress. So it gets tight there. I'm just going off the edge of that timing marker. I don't want to put it on the timing mark in case I confuse it later on. But it's getting tight there. Now I'll put some more WD down and just wriggle those cylinders. Pointing up there, should be here. I'll put some more WD down and wriggle that and just see if I'm getting past those marks, whether we're making slow progress. Because if I think we're not making progress and force it, but we might have been getting past it. Yeah, that's going past, heaps. Oh, I can't get it back though. Oh, I can't get it back. It's one to come off a bolt, I think. So I'm just going to use the ratchet to roll it back. I'm not actually going to use the ratchet to turn the motor over. I just want to get it back into that groove where it was moving freely. This is the total opposite what I normally do. Oh, geez, yeah. I don't want to force it with a ratchet past that point. Yeah, we're gone again. As soon as I go past that point, Alright, just gentle, just gentle. Take your time. As I go 2 inches past where it was hurting. Okay, so now we're getting to there. I put 2 marks there, so I know that's where I'm getting to now. This is the shittest ratchet ever. Keep swapping directions when I don't want it to. So that's tightened up again there. I think we've got the next hour of this video down pat. So I'm now not making as much progress as I was. So I'm going to go back to square one, because I'm wondering if we're encountering another valve wanting to open and it can't, or wanting to shut and it can't. Although if I wanted to shut and it can't, I'd see one of those push rods would be rattling because it'd be loose. Go back to WD all the cylinders, give them another spray because they're in a different position. Maybe there's a ridge or something somewhere. I'm probably going to speak too soon, but I'll say it anyway. Remember that crap I found in the glove box when I said that gives me a bit of confidence? Generally, if you're using that valve saver stuff in your fuel tank, the tanks don't rust out as bad. So although this is as rusted as hell, it's got a cap on it, and if it's had that crap in it, maybe. Why I say that shit is beyond me, because then it gives me some ridiculous false hope. But it's just what I was thinking, that's all. The fact someone spent a bit of money on it with the manifold and those covers, and it doesn't look that bad in here. They obviously serviced the transmission, so at some stage somebody was looking after it. I'd say the body just got out of hand. I'll just work him through that area that I've got free for a little bit. Just get that WD moving around in there. Oh, that's already gone past where it was then. That one, same again. I'll get it a little bit further past before I mark it again. Otherwise I'll get lost in my marks. Ooh. Oh. I don't know if you can still see the marks from out there, but I'll bring you back down in 1 minute. I'll put some more marks on it. Oh, there she goes. We went right round. Oh no, we didn't. Oh, we went 3/4 of the way around. and then I failed miserably. I need to rub some dirt on that. It's still tight. That's tightened right up. I won't learn though. I'm still going to do it again, take more skin off. No teaching stupid, I guess. Oh, that worries me. There's a real easy spot and a real tight spot. Oh, look at the correlation between those two. So if I talk you through this bit, right, I'm ratcheting it, and watch that back valve, and I'll say when it gets tight. Out now, and look what's happened. That back fella's open, so that's our cylinder. That's got to be our one causing the problem. That is the rear intake valve, I think. Way to tell. The way to tell if it's your intake or your exhaust, from over there I couldn't quite see from that other direction, but here's the exhaust header pipe running to that one, so that's your exhaust valve, and your intake I couldn't tell over there, but yes, that port would run straight in there, and this is our intake valve. So it's our intake valve that's sticking, or it's the piston trying to get to the top of the cylinder and go back down that's tight. That's random. You think going down would be easy, but anyway, maybe it's that valve sticking. That is really tight, that push rod. That would make a lot of sense though, because if you think of it, if a mouse went down there, he can get all the way to that valve, and if he's had his little nest around the stem of that valve, it'd be nice and corroded, wouldn't it? It was open. If it's trying to close, well, that corroded bit's trying to go up in the guide, so it makes a hell of a lot of sense. I just don't want it to do it. I want it to just come free. So I'm going to go back the other way. Try and take some more skin off somewhere else. There's that. See, there's the real easy spot. That one's hard too, so where's that? What's moving there? Ironically, cylinder 7, that's his exhaust valve starting to open. Got tight again right as he's trying to open, so there's something going on at the top of that. Well, we know what's going on. It was full of rust and probably mouse piss. Exhaust is shut and he's easy again. Intake's open. Tight again. He's confident enough to hit it with a key. Battery and a key. That's going pretty good. It's got some tight spots, but I'm not losing my mind uncomfortable with that. I will say one thing is I could see a lot of wires up there that have been chewed through there, so I don't hold much hope. Oh, and there, so I don't hold much hope with anything actually working without us going through a bit of wiring, but I'm going to try it. That sparked like all hell too, so that's not a good thing. We might just wait, make sure there's no smoke in a second. It's clearly not going to fire when I wind it because it's got no distributor cap. I'm distracted as I'm saying this, so that's why I'm stuttering and stammering like an idiot. I'm looking for smoke, but no distributor cap, no leads. It's not going to fire. We've got no plugs in it, right? So I'm just going to tap the key a few times. See how we go. Have we got anything? We have absolutely nothing. Oh, we've got a temperature gauge that jumped up, so we've got something in here. Oh, and a very, very dull light there. I'm just going to wriggle this shifter as I turn the key, so I might have to put you down for a second. It's a real long shot, but I was just wondering if So the park, oh no, it's going to work there too now. It's slow, but so I'd say the earths are chewed through, because even with that little battery it's charged, it should be winding a little bit faster. But let's have a look. Just watching that rotor button, see how fast it's actually turning over. That battery I know is pretty good, so I'd say we're just missing. See, that should be earthed. That one is earthed, but is it anything hot? No, maybe she's just got a little bit of resistance there. I'll give her another couple of goes. Maybe a little bit more WD. I'm just wondering which one would be the oil light. I wonder if I can find that out. I might just Google that. Okay, so here's where we're at. I've got a big battery, jumper leads onto the small battery, because that one won't fit in there. The reason I'm going to try and wind it a bit quicker is I've figured out which one is the oil light. I googled the replacement fascia bit, and it's that top left hand side. So if I'm going to have one go at it, and I'll explain in a minute that if that oil light doesn't go out, we're not going to crank on it anymore. Actually, I'll explain right now. These 308s and 253 motors, this Holden V8 motors, there's the oil pump. It's on the oil filter housing, it's in between there, and after a long time sitting, they actually bleed down. How they work is they're gears, and they just roll together like that, like teeth on the gears roll together, and the clearance is what pumps the oil. But the problem is, if they've been dry for a hell of a long time, and I did it once before on, I would have been the WB Statesman, same sort of thing. You just pull the pump off because it's external. You fill the clearance between the gears with grease, put it back together, and that little bit of clearance being closed up with grease sucks the oil better, and away you go, you get oil pressure. So I don't want to crank on this thing for too long or too hard when I know this is probably going to need that being done. I'm just trying to shortcut it in case it goes and gets oil pressure. It has got oil, I checked it, it's very overfull and it's very black, which means it's got a lot of fuel. But if I'm going to pull that off, then I'll do a filter, then we'll drop the oil. For now, we'll just see if that light goes out. The chances of the light actually working are probably, well, it is working, it's on, but what I mean is the chances of it receiving signal is 50-50, but let's have a go. So if this crank's really slow, we'll just know it's earths, but there it is there. That guy, if he goes off, I'd say we just got earth issues. I'll give it one more go faster. I've just sent the big battery straight to the starter terminal, so I'm sort of doing away with that cable with that battery anyway, and I've gone straight to the block or to that bracket. So if it doesn't wind any faster, we know we've just got some cable work to do. What else? Some earth terminal work to do. Even that looks a little brighter. No better though. Righto, I won't poke the bear too much. Okay, so I'll say I'll give it one go and I won't poke the bear, and here we are still going. No, let me explain the method in my madness. Okay, so that's the oil pressure sender. I'm going to rule out that that's faulty. I've actually loosened it. So what I've done is essentially created a controlled oil leak. So when I wind this, if it is building any pressure at all, it will leak out that hole. Actually, I might take it right out. It will leak out that hole if it's got any pressure whatsoever. The reason I'm being an eternal optimist is I've got that sneaking suspicion that this was getting removed, and what if it was getting removed for no oil pressure and it was a sender? Or what if it was getting removed because it had been parked a long time and it didn't prime that pump? So I'm just going to rule out, before I take the whole pump off and pack it, I'm going to rule out that sender. So let's have one more go at it. I don't know if you can see it from there, but just keep your eye there, see if we get anything. I'll probably hear the oil more so than see it. Anything? Nothing at all. Righto, I'm going to try a little cheat sheet, and that is pour some oil, some heavy oil, into that little port. So I've just got a little tube running down to that. I'm going to see if I can fill those gears this way with a tiny bit of 2050. Cheapest shit I could get, because it probably won't work. And a little bit of leftover transmission fluid I'm seeing in there as well, so it's getting a bit of transmission fluid. I meant that, that's great for it. No, it's just that's what it was in last. Get in there. So hopefully this primes the pump just enough. You see it's just trickling down that hose down into that sender, which means I'll probably have to put that sender thingy back in, because otherwise it's just going to spit that clean oil out. I want it to actually prime that pump. Put him back in. See, it's going in, so it's got to be going somewhere. We'll see if I've just created a little cheat sheet about removing that and greasing up those gears. I don't know if it's really winding fast enough, to be honest. Is that off? Nah, I don't reckon. Oh, or is it? I'll create my oil leak again. I'm going to loosen the filter and give it one last go. I'll tighten it up just so it's not dripping out, and we'll see if we can get a bit of an oil leak. Last go, I promise. Nah, that'll do it. Although there is a bit of oil in that pan now. Is there any in that filter if I knock it? Oh, there's a bit of black coming out of that filter. Okay, so here's my theory. So I give you what's rattling around in my head. Not all of it, because that'd probably frighten you, but here's what I think's going on. I actually don't think we're going to have a trouble with oil pressure. Despite my cheat sheet not working, I'm thinking it's running straight in and maybe filling that filter. But that last time I cracked the filter completely and it stopped running out, or I wound it and it's running out again. So I actually think some oil's getting through there. But I think it's winding so slow. And remember I said I could hear it change tone? That's the starter. The starter is starting to feel the pinch. It's actually quite hot. So I think what we do is, it's 4:30. I get on the phone, make sure I can get a filter in the morning, and in the morning we pull the starter out, clean up the starter, make it wind faster. If it winds faster, no oil pressure, prime the pump, put the new filter and new oil in. All that. Probably put new filter and oil on anyway, but let's do that. I've got to get on the phone before the parts store shuts and make sure I can get one. Righto, so a filter's no big deal. I can get one of them in the morning, but for tonight, oh geez, that plate can go there. Like it jumped out at me. So, chuck my rocker covers back on. I'm going to dump the oil now and knock that starter out. And yeah, I know, there's that one guy. Why didn't you change the oil before you turned it over? That's easy. The oil is worth more than this motor if it was locked up. And it's just a process of elimination. It's not locked up. We got it to turn over. Now we're going to get it to turn over faster. It's still slippery. Like I checked it on the dipstick. It was over full, but it still had viscosity. I'll say that. It wasn't like treacle. See? Perfect. And stinks of fuel, which is absolutely consistent with those plugs and not having carburetor on it, carburetor issues. So hopefully that's all we're dealing with. Yeah, sure. Yeah, you saw it at the start. That's all we're dealing with. Just carburetor issues. And mouse turds from hell. But anyway, I'll leave that. I'll see if I can knock this starter out and somehow put my head or something through that stream of oil. I'm pulling this starter anyway, but in a funny way. I'm just having a little second guess on my brain there for a lot of things. No, just for the voltage. But you see there, 12.6. I know that's a little battery, but I know it's good enough. So if I put it on, not the cable down here, but the actual post of the starter, 12.6. So the power's getting to the starter. I'm just confirming the fact it's getting hot. It's unhappy when it's at the starter, so it's not turning over through lack of voltage. It's not turning over slow through lack of voltage. It's definitely I don't know what's inside that starter. How long has it been sitting? Let's get it out. So just while I'm knocking this starter out, I've got the wires off this end, and it's just a bolt there and a bolt up there you can't quite see. But I'll show you why I got so in depth about, well, if I'm taking the oil pump off to do the gears, I may as well do the filter, because there's the bolts you have to undo. So filter's got to come off anyway. So I'm going to clean up the whole housing. It's just bolt there, another one over there, and two more on the top. That's the oil pump just bolted straight onto the side of the block. Anyhow, I'll stop dicking about. What size is that? Like a 5/8, I reckon. Let's get it done. And just for the record, I was wrong. They weren't 5/8 at all. They were 9/16. Righto, I'm no starter guru, but let's just start pulling shit apart and see where we get. So what do we need? Should I guess at it? I did pretty well back there. I don't know. Some of them. At least if I do this now, I'll know if I've got to get it started tomorrow or not. It doesn't smell great, I'll give you the tip. Well, no. I mean, didn't smell good because of the rat turd. No, that smells electrical. It smells like it got really hot. It didn't feel stupidly hot though. I was expecting to have to bash the hell out of that circlip to get that off. It just fell off. It's not great, but it's not that bad. And that armature, oh yeah, no, that armature might be burnt up. Have a look at this. Okay, see there where there's no real grooves left? Well, they might just be full of crap. Generally, rule of thumb is once those little grooves are gone, those little lines, she's toast. That's not as burnt as I've seen them. I've seen them, that's called an armature. I've seen them a lot blacker than that. But look where those brushes are. They're just about used up. She's at the end of her life. Very much so. But not there yet, alright? Not there yet. I'll just take the time to clean all those little grooves out, and I might get me drill onto there and spin it and just hold a nice bit of fine sandpaper on that and see if we can't get a couple more starts out of him. I'm just thinking if I start sanding that to pretty it up, is there no groove left? I'll tell you one thing that might make a difference is just contact cleaning all those brushes up, because if those brushes are making contact poorly, like if there's not enough pressure riding on that motor, that's what causes that black arcing. They arc across instead of sliding and touching on that, slipping real nice and, you know, just riding around it like they should. They sit back, they're not quite contacting, and then you get that black arcing. I guess what I'm saying is everything I'm doing here is wrong. Yeah, this is probably a total waste of time, but I'm going to keep doing it. I've grooved all those the armature ribs out, if you want to call them that, and half of me saying you're wasting your time, and the other half of me saying it's only carbon dust build-up. So I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. So we're wire wheeled down about as best as I can get. We're clean as about as best as I can get. Might throw it in, eh? Righto, so wiring's back in, starter's back in. I didn't bother testing it out on the bench because when you think about it, it's under no load, so of course it's going to sound like it's testing better, isn't it? 2 minutes to chuck it back in, so let's give it a wind. I'm kidding. It's got no oil in it. Let's put some oil in it. So putting some oil in it's not going to be as quick as it normally is, because these old Holdens, I know, you generally just put it through that side there, right? But when the rocker covers are not bolted down, these have extremely small oil return. I can't get that off again. And I'm taking this side off because it's the hardest and I want to torture myself now. I'm taking this side off because the motor's actually leaning over that way. Look, they're only tiny little holes around the push rods or at the end of the head, so I'm actually going to have to tip 5 litres of oil down through that freaking little hole, which is going to annoy the hell out of me. But I can't just tip it in through the oil return there because it's just going to leak out. And like I said, being the fact it's on a bit of a slope, I'm going to go down that head, but this could be painful. Anyway, I'm in a hurry. I'll see if my little funnel helps. Nope, no help whatsoever. I'll see if I can get my tube in there. Oh, go on and get. Go on and get, please. That'll just be simpler. How about down the side of the push rod? I've got no hope. Wait. I've had an idea. I'm going to knock that distributor out. It's got to come out anyway. It's shagged. Oh, add to the list for tomorrow. A distributor. That'd be a good idea. So now it's only an oil filter. I've got plugs. I should check that. And a dizzy. Oh, I remember you Holden pieces of crap. I remember fighting this with the statesman. Hand up of everyone that needs to know if this is going to be any better before 1, we get rained on, or 2, beer time. It's already after beer time, but I've got to know. If it's no better, gotta get a starter. This is definitely one of those specialty tools that you make like a right angle ring spanner. I guarantee you, if there's a guy out there that works on a lot of these, he's got one. I might have one by the end of this episode, I'll tell you that. Oh, I don't have time to fuck around. There you go. Well, I've just gone, well, that's not attached or anything, which makes me say coil. I need a coil too. It's all coming together nicely. Right, so our battery's still connected. I'm not going to get the other battery. I'll just leave that one for the minute and just see if it sounds like it cranks any better. And if it does, then we might go a bit harder. Why have we got nothing? What have I forgotten? We've got power, we got dash lights again. It's probably just that column, but I'll just check. That's on where it was, that's on where it was. It's probably just that column. No, it's not just the column. What have I missed? What have I missed? I didn't disconnect anything else. Maybe I should have tested it on the bench. It worked better when everything was dirty. So we've got power there. Have I lost my solenoid? Keep your eyes down there, see if that light comes on. Oh, see it easy. We've got solenoid wire. I'll try and short him across first. So if I bridge power across that starter from the two main terminals, I should get the starter to spin. And then maybe, just maybe, the solenoid's shut. So after all that frigging around with the starter, the solenoid has now shit itself. It was working and now it's not. That was the only bit I didn't pull off the starter motor. How does that work? That answers my question though. It doesn't sound any better. Or does it? Do you reckon? So back on with my second battery and my jumper cables. I reckon that's winding over marginally quicker, so let's pull that sender again and see if I can pump some oil all over my floor. Geez, I couldn't spit that out. Must be past beer time. It is. It's like an hour and a half past. So technically this is overtime. But I guts to know, like I said. I'm going to call that a no. I think that's torturing it enough. No oil pressure coming out that sender gauge. So first thing in the morning, order a distributor. No, that'd be too late. I need it now. I've got to get on the phone now. No, can't. It's after 5. Damn it. I've got to pray to God that I can rustle up a distributor from somewhere. We've got to get that pump off, smash the gears with grease to get it to pump, and order a starter. This could get tricky because now it's after 5 and I thought that'd go better than that. So anyway, it's definitely beer time. And I've got to tell you, I'm not actually that disappointed in today as much as you think you should be. We could have been dead in the water with that piston, that number 7 cylinder. But we're not, we're still going. So a starter and a distributor, not that big a deal. Like, I know it's money I've got to spend, but what's the worst that can happen? They're 2 parts that are removable and I can put them on something else. Actually, I'll just throw the bonnet back on too tonight, just in case that storm does roll in. I'd hate to get water down it now that I know it's mint. I can't help myself. I'm going to have one last flick of this oil filter, and if oil runs out, yeah, okay, there's some oil pressure because I drained that filter and it just ran out of oil again. Not much, but I genuinely think it's not turning fast enough to create oil pressure. I actually don't think the pump is the issue. We'll probably pull it off anyway because I have wound it 3 or 4 times, but it's winding that slow. Like, I drained that filter and that's what just came out of it then. It's Still terrible oil, and it is pretty black. It should be fairly clean if it was pumping through, but nah, inconclusive evidence. And I guess in a funny way you could almost find reason to be disappointed in that, but I'm not. We could have been dead in the water, like I said, that's number 7 cylinder, but it wound over. It's winding over off the starter. I don't think it's winding over fast enough to, 1, pick up oil pressure, and 2, do any damage. That is really slow. So I was kind of clutching at straws trying to fix up that starter. And then of course the solenoid shat. So really I'm only a starter motor away from the perfect scenario. I couldn't have got spark, I didn't have a distributor. So the best thing we could have had done today was it winding over and got oil pressure. It wound over, I just got no oil pressure. We'll get starter, dizzy, and I'm gonna have to get on the phone and find out where, because I was probably a bit dumb on that one and didn't ring up before close of business. So if it's overnight, I have to find some things to do if it's overnight. I'll worry about that tomorrow. Anyhow, it ain't over yet. I'll see you in the morning. So first up this morning, I'm going to pull that oil pump off. We're going to prime the oil pump. I have my darling wife doing a Mercy Dash 2 towns over for a oil filter, a distributor and a starter motor. But in the meantime, we've got plenty we can do. I'm going to have a look inside the tank, because I figure once we're cranking on it with the new starter, see if we can pick some fuel up, see if the pump works. Let's stop talking. One thing I do like about these old Holden V8s is the oil pump being on the outside of the block. See, that's full again. Well, it's not full, but it's got some in it. So we were getting some oil pressure yesterday. I think it's just cranking speed that's holding us up on that one. But yeah, back to what I was saying, I like the oil pump on the outside. So if you do have a tired one, you can actually just replace it with a brand new high volume pump without taking anything apart. I'm gonna drop this and splash it. Did that the hard way. Anyway, it's not hard to get off. See these bolts here? We're just gonna undo that. The whole pump assembly will come off. Got him. Out he comes. And that's driven off the camshaft. So we'll have a gear on the end. Oh, if I can get it. I thought I had it. Oh, I'm in the wiring. Ugh. Let's give him a clean up first, then I'll knock these bolts out and we'll have a look at these gears and prime them up. There's our gears. Now if I get, oh, I was going to say if I get a screwdriver I can turn that and show you. But essentially there's a female sort of groove that goes in the block, driven off the camshaft, which turns that guy. It spins around, turns the other guy, and that's the clearance we've got to close up. We've got to get that tolerance tighter so that it sucks oil better. Righto, so here's how we do it. Very simply, just bash some grease in those cogs. I've seen Vaseline used as well, and I guess with a new motor you're only running the run-in oil, so you only run it for a short period and then drop it. I guarantee you this little bit of grease is not going to worry it in the slightest, but this is a pretty standard thing. See how it's closing up those tolerances as it's throwing the grease everywhere? That'll just provide a bit better suction, and away she will go. Right, clean up the surfaces, make a new gasket, put it back in. Righto. And this is absolutely the recommended procedure. When that hardens, we've all had that happen, so you just jam a hole in the side of the tube and just do it like that. You know you're struggling when you're doing these. Right, that's all I have. And yes, I'm going to wipe that and make it all nice and even and thin. Here's my parts. That was quick. Just going to use a little bit of Permatex on the backside gasket. because it's in perfect condition. Righto, in we'll go, and then let's have a look at these parts. The only thing you really got to watch when you're going back in, you see that fella in there? That's what you've got to engage that shaft into. And I won't say you can't mess it up, but if you don't line that up, it actually won't bolt up flush. It'll actually be clearance. But yeah, I won't say you can't mess it up, but geez, it's difficult. You'd have to be a bit of a stooge. So let's see if I can stooge my way through this. And if you sort of wriggle it as you go in, you can almost feel it drop in. And then while we're under here, we might pull that starter motor out. At least now I'll know when I get oil pressure, when it starts leaking out that horrendous RTV gasket I just made. I apologise in advance. Torque spec on the oil pump is basically just tighten it down until your ratchet slips off and strips the head of the bolt, and that's tight enough. Oh yeah, just like that, exactly like that. So it slips off, you break your knuckles on something metal, and then you know it's torqued correctly. So you know I've bought the highest quality of parts when they turn up and they have no name on the box at all. But by highest quality I clearly meant cheapest. Is that how the solenoid was? Yes, yes it is. Alright, so that can go in. And the distributor, also of highest quality, and fortunately it comes pre-broken. So I don't even have to worry about breaking that when I put it in. They've already done it for me. The box was pretty knocked around, but didn't think it was quite that knocked around, but I'm gonna have to do something with that too, because if that's sitting near anything metal, the spark may actually try to arc out of it. So I would say a soldering iron and myself are going to have a really good time just melting that back together. Excellent. Righto, let's get that in and get something done with that. Okay, so that didn't feel like it fit properly at all. Doesn't fit the dust cover at all, and I had to use like 17 spaces to get the bolts to nip up because they're 35 mils too long. So that direct fit replacement starter is excellent. We're going to ignore that and move on, because I want to do a little bit up in this area before I start cranking on it, and that is get that filter out. That's terrible. See if there's any fuel in it, and then maybe chuck a camera down the tank. That is, I didn't realize that's locking. Do we have a key? Oh geez, I'm on fire today. We've got a key. It's not too bad. So we'll chuck a camera down there, see what we can see. But remember that little bottle that was in the glove box? Oh geez, that one, or those two. Why I said I thought that was a favourable thing to find is sometimes when you've got that valve saver in your fuel, so you tip that into the fuel tank. The upper cylinder lubricant, you used to tip it in your fuel tank every time you got fuel, because this would be an engine designed for leaded fuel, whereas when we changed to unleaded, we were having upper cylinder lubricant issues. You had to have your heads machined for hardened valve seats and stuff. If that's been in the tank on a regular basis, it might be just enough for that tank not to be rusted out, unlike the rest of the car. I suppose I could always get fairly game and maybe try to undo that guy. Oh no, I'm not going to do that. Look, that's had a repair around it. I ain't touching that. And I reckon if I keep poking at that, is that moisture spots there? I don't know. Anyway, let's not assume. Let's have a look. I can't get over that C panel. That is the best. Looks like it's made from a colour-bond fence or something. Colour-bond fence screws. It's fixed though. So I'm predicting some issues with that starter. But that's okay, we can easily swap the solenoid, I guess, onto that one. Still won't wind any faster, but we can always do that. But I better melt this back together. I'm just going to have a crack with the soldering iron, because like I said, that spark can actually jump. Totally the recommended procedure. Oh, it's cracked right the way around. First thing you should always do with new parts, repair them. The irony would be if that's cylinder 1, I'll clearly be able to identify it. I'd say a little bit of JB weld now and won't even know it's broken. I'm predicting a miss on cylinder, whatever one that ends up being. Looks professional if nothing else. Alright, let's check out this tank. I don't know if you can see down here, I'm trying to get that out into the shade so we can all have a look. I'll go down into this tank. Might actually bend that up a little. I've hit a bit of a snag, I can't get in any further. Come on, get in there. This is not turning out to be a great success just yet, but I'll have another go. Come on. Must be like a 90-degree turn or something I can't get round. Still a lot of orange, but I don't think I'm in the bottom of the tank. I think I'm still in the filler neck. A lot of orange on the camera too. This may be a complete and utter waste of time. Oh, and that crap just got pulled out, so that's... Well, that's on its way down the filler neck, and none of that looks terribly rusty. So as much as it pains me to give up on the tank, well, I'm not giving up on the tank. I'm just going to give up looking in the tank. I'm going to disconnect it there, put some fuel in the tank, and if it doesn't run out on the concrete, then we're one step ahead. I might even put some fuel in it and put a little bit of compressed air in it, see if I can force it out this line here once I disconnect that. So I got that filter out, and I like to sort of, I don't know, figure out where their issue might have been, but look at that filter. It's come apart. Was that their carburetor issues? Is that why the carburetor was off? Did they fill it full of crap, which would mean the tank's full of crap. Anyway, I'll put some fuel in it, we'll try and pressurize and get a bit to come out of here, and we'll go from there. So here's my thought, why don't I put compressed air up that first before I put too much in there. And if I can't get compressed air to go through there, you know it's blocked. If I hear it bubbling and that little bit of fuel, then I know we can keep going. Have we got anything leaking? Nothing yet. Alright, compressed air it is. I'll just put a tiny bit of compressed air up it. Nothing crazy. I don't want to blow the arse out of the tank, but have a listen to that. See if you can hear it. I tell you what, geez, I can smell it, but that sounded pretty good. Now I'm going to do the opposite. There's the pipe, just there. And I'm going to put a little bit of compressed air in that filler neck and see how we go. You get any? Oh yeah, cool. So I'm going to chuck this filter on, but I'm going to wish it the best of luck because I think its days are numbered. I think it's going to have a very short life, this filter. So let's see now if we've got fuel to the pump. I'll disconnect up, or don't have to disconnect up here. Let's see if that fills up when we start winding it, eh? Put that battery in, let's wind it. Okay, so we're going to see how fast it spins. Better give it some air, see if it spins faster. Watch for fill. Watch the oil pressure light. We've got fuel. Have we got oil pressure though? My light didn't go off. Keep your eyes there. Watch for a tremendous oil leak. I pray that we have a tremendous oil leak. Oh, before I do get you to watch for an oil leak, how about we plug that? Or at least put a bottle there. I guess at least if I catch it in a bottle, we'll see what sort of colour it is. Yep, got it. I can hear it. Yep, got it. Yeah, I've got oil pissing out everywhere, so we got pressure. I was starting to lose hope on that one. And I've seen worse than that, to the point where I might even tip that back in. For now, I'll just leave it. There's no doubt I'll be winding it for spark shortly, so let's get into plugs, distributor, timing, setting up the timing. So to get to these timing marks, it's these guys here. And you'll see, there it's got a large one, that'll be 0, and there's an A, so this will be advanced. And then we're going to try and find, well, we don't have to try and find, ironically, there he is there. I'm just going to wind that round a fraction, then I'm going to mark it with probably bright red or something. So just like that, mark there. I've got a bit wobbly, but mark there, that's just on 0. We're not going to quite set it up at 0, but let's get these covers back off. And I'll show you why I take the covers off. I won't show you how to take the covers off, I'll show you why. The reason I want the valve covers back off is when you're setting up timing, you always hear of the MI 180 out. Well, I'll show you exactly what we mean by 180 degrees out, and also how not to be 180 degrees out. The engine makes 2 complete rotations to complete a combustion cycle, and that's from the piston at the top, travels down, pulls the air in, travels back up and compresses the air. That's one rotation. Then you get spark, it travels back down, that's your power stroke, and then to exhaust, that's your second rotation. So the point being, the piston can be at the top of the cylinder twice. So just checking that the piston is at the top of the cylinder won't actually tell you what cycle you're on. The reason I knock the cover gaskets off is you can't get it wrong if you think of it like this. If the piston is at the top of the bore traveling down, an intake valve will open, and the way we check which one that is, if you see the exhaust lines up with that valve and the intake lines up with that valve, so that's your intake valve. As the piston travels down, it takes air in, so that valve will open. The next part of the rotation, the piston will travel up, and that's the compression stroke. That's when it wants its spark. So if you see that mark directly after that valve shuts, that's its compression stroke, and it wants spark after that. If you see the exhaust doing its thing, then that's not when you want spark. So you can line that balancer up. I'll give you an example. So I'll rotate it around at probably the wrong spot first. Watching these 2 valves here, cylinder 1. Okay, so there goes your exhaust valve. That means the piston's traveling back up. As the exhaust valve opens, the piston is forcing the exhaust gas out. Oh, it's still got that hard spot in it. So that's exhaust valve shutting there. And there's our mark, lined up. So if you bash the distributor in now, did I mumble that? So if you bash the distributor in now and set it up, it'll all look right. There's your mark. So there goes our intake, okay? So he's traveling down. So now the piston is travelling downwards and it's sucking air in that intake. You'll see it close as it comes up. So that's now closed. So that would be the piston coming up, travelling upwards with both valves are shut. So that's your compression stroke. So if I just keep rotating now, and then there you have it, there's your mark. I'm going to set it up just before 0. So it's actually going to be slightly advanced. That's how you find the correct top dead center, assuming your balancer hasn't slipped, but we'll worry about that after. We're just going to stab it in at that, knowing full well that we're on the correct rotation. So distributor in. General rule of thumb when you're fitting a distributor is you want your number one cylinder, your number one terminal, if you will, facing your number one cylinder. And I just want enough room to be able to swing that distributor. Actually, that dropped in by itself. You'll feel it go into that gear at the bottom. And I'm just going to rotate him around. I'm out of the gear there now and drop back in. See, that's in there and it's kind of heading to 1. I'm going to come around one more. Actually, up out of the gear. There. And then back down. Come on, back down. There we go. Righto, so I'm going to call that number 1, roughly facing number 1 cylinder. And I've got enough room to swing the distributor, still get my clamps on and off. So we'll figure out, I'll line up there. See that, I guess you call it a reluctor. When you turn the body, I'll line that up, I'll sit the cap on and we'll mark this guy here. Well, it's not going to be a bodgy one anyway. You see there, just there near my thumb, there's a bit of a, I don't know, a little key. Well, that's got to go in there. So if I put that key on the distributor cap that way, like that, that would make that our number 1. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yep. So I'm going to lock it down with the clamp, which is a pain to get under there and get it done. But I'll get that on, we'll get the cap in, and we'll start putting some plugs in and getting our firing order. So I actually moved the body around a bit further because I found the locking nut, or the clamp down, was too hard to get at. And you 253 and 308 guys, yep, I did have to make one. You know what it's for. Get in underneath that distributor like that and lock that down. It's almost impossible to get in there. But I'll show you, if it didn't make 100% sense about the 180 degree out. If I can get the damn thing on. Righto, so with the distributor cap on, and I've got my number 1 marked, I'll now show you what I mean when we talk about 180 degrees out. We're not talking about 180 degree rotation of the motor. It's the distributor. See, the distributor only rotates the once in 2 rotations of the crankshaft, and I'll show you. So if I turn this over right round, and that distributor's locked down now so it can't move. Oh, there is still a little hard spot there. So now that's the timing marks lined up. But look where the rotor button is. If you remember our number 1, so that is now literally 180 degrees out. That is, it could be set up incorrectly. That's correct because I've locked it down. So if I go back to my timing mark now, look, I'm turning it over by hand and I'm getting fuel spewing out the end of the fuel line. Nearly there. Lock that guy out, and there's our rotor button back at our 1. So that's how you could do it 180 degrees out. Oh, now I can't get the damn cap on. There we are. It's our distributor position locked out. That's all good there, so we'll move on to putting some plugs in it and start lining up our firing order. as far as spark leads, we've got the 2 that were on the car to start with, but I've got a box full of them, so hopefully I can make something work out of all of that. And those guys as well, they're a bit different, but doesn't matter. I don't just mean colour, they're a bit different in the top. They'll be right, we'll see what we can work out. And I've written my firing order just on a box there, just so I can refer back to it quickly. And all I'm going to do is lay out some plugs, just see if they're all going to fit basically. I'm going to tag them because I'm not putting the plugs in yet. And how the banks are numbered, like I said before, one's always the furthest forward, and a Holden's like a Chevy, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, alternating. So you've got odds one side, evens, well, odds this side and evens the other side. So that's 2. And before you say, why don't you just chuck the plugs in, I'll show you. We've hit a hurdle. I'll just number these and I'll show you the plugs. And talk about more ass than class. I was just thinking, how's that going to fit there? Why doesn't it fit? Because it's not the factory manifold and they don't have to. But look at this. There's 2 holes there and there. And that lines up. And yes, I have wrote plus and minus on it just because I know that I'm going to mount it and then go which was which. So I've chucked 2 big screws in that. And I found the worst coil lead ever with a bread clip on it. No, it's not a bread clip at all. It's a Top Gun. So now she's a race car. Okay, so here's my dilemma with spark plugs. I knew I had a set out of a 308, but if you see written there, it's 308 question mark. So I wondered why, when I read that, why did I put a question mark on it? And here's why. They're different. Completely different. They're a tapered seat and that's a flat end washer, I guess you call it. So are they out of an earlier model? Did the heads change to tapered seat? Because the only other 308 I've had was the Statesman. It was an 84. Well, if they're not in the Statesman, did I buy them for the Statesman and they were wrong? But they've been used, so they're in something that worked. So I'm going to have to clean these up. But if you remember, one was broken, so I'm going to clean up and test as many as I can. But I found 6 more and they're correct. They're tapered seat. They're not as long, but they're the same thread and they're the same taper, so they'll work. The only thing is there's only 6 of them and one's totally different. So in actual fact there's only 5 of them and a spare. So I'm thinking I must have had them in a 202. Is a 202 the same plugs or similar plugs? They're going to work. If they throw a spark, they'll work for now. So I guess what I'm saying is it's going to be a complete shit fight, but I'm going to get 8 plugs to work one way or another. I'm going to clean all these up, see if these work, put them back in, and if I can get away with one of these, I'll do that. If you're going to clean that end of the plug, just don't use a coarse wheel, use a real fine wire wheel, or just spray them. I'm just going to do the thread for now, and of course the seat there, because it's got to earth to the block. So we now have our plugs cleaned up and our leads on, and you can tell where my level of confidence is by the way that I've numbered every lead. It's almost as if I know I'm going to pull them off 30 times, but you never know. There's a couple of things going on there. The old plugs being the main one there, but I'm going to sit these back on. I'm not going to screw them down. I might just put one screw in them actually, just so we don't have oil going everywhere, because we know we have amazing oil pressure. She really is looking spectacular now, isn't she? And we're up to fuel. We know we've got fuel. We're just got to have something in this general vicinity. Take a look at this though. This is the Holly, obviously, that was in the back of the car. I just want to talk about this for 1 second. You Holly guys have probably already spotted it, but there's the secondary metering block that should be in there. What's going on there? That's the accelerator pump plunger, if you will. The accelerator pump I know, they could have just chucked it back together just to have it in one piece, and they've just chucked it on upside down. But that I'm not even going to try with. There's just too much going on with it. So I've got another carburetor in this guy. I don't know if it's any good. It's been sitting for a long time. It's pretty clean. I got it with another motor, but I'm going to try it. What's the worst that could happen? I'll check all the... I'll just check the accelerator pumps work and see what I mean. That's upside down. That's the accelerator pump there. And it's a vac secondary as well, so we're going to give that one a crack and just hope for the best. So I'm going to put some Permatex in probably the worst gasket I could have found straight over this. It really probably should have an adapter going from a spread bore, meaning two larger ports at the rear, two smaller ports at the front. But I don't have an adapter and I don't have a gasket. So I'm just doing this. It'll seal, it'll pull down tight enough just on that 4-barrel gasket. And like I said, it's probably the worst gasket I could find, but it's a gasket. A vacuum leak's probably the least of its concerns after the way it was. If you remember, there was rat's nests in that intake. I can't imagine what's going to come out of the exhaust the first time I fire it. That was very assuming of me that it's going to fire up. I see no reason why. We've now got new coil, we've got power to the coil, we've got a new coil, we've got terrible leads, a broken distributor, a carby. I've got no idea what's good or bad. What could possibly go wrong? With the carby on, and speaking of vacuum leaks, I've got one vacuum line that's going to go to the vacuum advance on the distributor, which is down here, so I need a hose for that. And I've got one vacuum line here, and that's going to go to that PCV. That's this guy, positive crankcase ventilation, or a PCV. So that's going to go in there like that, and then he'll come across probably underneath all of that crap. And if I can wedge it on, I'll wedge it on the back of that carburetor. Probably have to jump around the other side, but I've got some on the other side to do as well. And over this side, obviously this had a holly on it before, but that, because that bracket's been homemade, you can tell that. And look where it lined up, basically right on it, smack on it, which I'll guarantee this other carby, yeah, has got exactly that. So that's why that's lined up perfectly. That carby's come off it. And so this return spring, I could say, would probably go, it's made for it. Righto. Vacuum line, oh, fuel line, we need to get that fuel into there. That's another thing, but I'll get that vacuum hose done. I'm struggling to remind me, next time I go to town, I need small hose clamps, 5/16 hose clamps. I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel. I'm even using these fellas. I'm sure they'll be fine on new line. I'm going to keep telling myself that. I'm excited. I reckon we are literally some water in that radiator and a couple of hose clamps away from being extremely disappointed with it not firing up. Just because if there was any dried up fuel in that pump, the new fuel is going to soften it, and when the new fuel softens it, it's going to travel. So even though you don't have one there from factory, that's what I need to do. So I just fill him up with water, and I've got that fuel on just into a bottle for a minute. We're going to wind it, get some fuel through that filter, hopefully get a bit of oil pressure around the place. Then I'll top up the carby bowl with a little bit of fuel, Is that going down? No, it's pretty right, I think. Is it leaking or did I just overfill it? I'm going to say it's... No, it's definitely leaking. So anyway, let's just not worry about it. I said we'd find out why it was disconnected. That's me overfilling it, but I don't think that is. Unless it's run across there. Let's not worry about it. Let's just put that on there, wind it over till we get some fuel in there, tip some in there, and it'll run perfectly, no doubt. Well, here comes the fuel, and I won't keep whining because that didn't sound like it was overly happy. That's probably not enough fuel. Hang on. I want a bit to pour down that carby. I want a bit to pour down that carby. I can see me end up jump starting that battery. It's only a little battery, but one thing I don't know with this Holly is where the bowls are set or anything like that, so I guess we're winging it. I'm going to put a little bit in the bowl. Just make sure it's not running out straight down the throat of the carby already. Any squirter? Yep. Oh. Right. I've got fuel pouring out the front squirter. You know, accelerator pump, that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to think as I do it. I'm going to ignore it. If I can get this thing to catch fire, I mean if I can get this thing to fire off, then I guess we'll do that squirter. I'll go in. Righto, let's just ignore all of it and hit the key and see what I can get it to do, and that'll tell us what the next step is. Absolutely nothing. Absolutely positively nothing. So like I said, we're checking spark. I changed my mind. I'm going to put a pool in the bottom of that manifold, put a fire extinguisher right there because I've got fuel everywhere now. Ooh. Come on, come on. What is that noise? Come on, dude. We've got one. Got one cylinder wanting to go. It is cylinder number 3 because the header's warm. Come on, number 3. And that is the only one. That's all right. It means we've got something working. I can't ignore that fuel leak any longer. It is running out. Check this out. It is literally just running out. So carburetor back off. So this little diaphragm will be perforated, probably from sitting for so long dry, and then I've gone and pumped the hell out of it, and it will have split all around the little metal centre, I would say. You know what? Oh, is that it? Maybe? I was about to say it looks fine. That was leaking bad. Maybe it wasn't the diaphragm. Maybe it's that base gasket. You'll laugh. I might be wrong, but I don't think they were tight. So I'm going to put that back in. I don't think the diaphragm was it. Which means I probably don't have to take it off. I can just do it on there, I just tighten them. That's what happens when you rush, you miss easy little things. Probably could have just checked that while I was on the car. Anyway, it took 2 seconds to remove and it'll put 2 seconds to put it back on. Surely you thoroughly checked that carburetor before fitting it. Yeah. Not one thing did I check. I attempted to check the float bowl, float level. Didn't get enough fuel in it. Righto. We'll soak up all that fuel so I can see if it's a new leak or just the old one again. Oh, you bastard, just tipped all my other fuel out. When you think about it, I probably do want to just wind it and get it to fill that bowl slowly so I can see if it's pissing out again before it starts popping and backfiring through the carby. At least we know we're not 180 out, huh? There's a positive for you. Everything else looks back to where we were. No fuel, clearly. Let's give it a crack. Just going to watch for fuel coming in. Oh, Jesus. We'll just have a look for fuel again. We've got fuel going everywhere. So our float's high. It's either high or stuck. See it pouring out, means your float's high. I'm actually gonna take a guess and say it's stuck. Way to check the correct float height. You see that hole there it's running out of? The correct height should be, if you take that plug out, nothing comes out, but if you rock the car, it comes out. So essentially it's sitting right about there. So if I empty this to the roughly the correct height, like that, there's nothing coming out. And if I now wind it and it pours out, you'll know it's trying to fill higher and your float needs to go down. So if I wind it now and it keeps coming out, either the float is stuck down or I need to adjust the float down further. That's about right, it's not coming out. And if I give it a rock like I was saying, so it's not rising, so I just drop that float level about 1.5 turns. Yeah, we've got good stream there from the squirters now. Oh, what is that nasty rattle over there? It's probably that inner guard. It's not even bolted in. I wonder if I should zip tie that battery back so it doesn't go walking. Probably not. Oh, well, I could just zip tie that handle. Yeah, I'll do that. I'd hate for it to walk its way down into the fan completely secure. It thinks it can. Wonder where that... I don't think my radiator's leaking. There you go. I was going to say, I wonder where this idle is set at. Higher, a bit higher than normal. I need it. Just because I want a bit of throttle as it goes to idle. It's going to go. It wants to go. Oh, geez, that's close. Jump start. What else might be hindering us some, do you think? They've got the secondaries wired. Look at this. So like I said, I did give this carby a complete look over. There's a screw there. It's bringing the secondaries on. It's a vacuum secondary. It doesn't need, they've tried to turn this into a double pumper. Boys, it doesn't work that way. That would make this carburetor very, very confused about its identity. Doesn't know if it's a vacuum secondary or a mechanical secondary or what. Is that a fresh fuel leak? No, I don't think it is. Did I come around this side and mop up? I don't think I did. Slow down, Michael. So which one's a trying? Or 1, 3, 4, 6 and 8 are all trying, but 2's got nothing, and what did I say on this side? 1 and 3 having a go. Come on. Jesus. Oh. She's going to be rough, but she's going to be... It's going to be rough, but it's going to go. So, 7's the only one not trying now. You watch, I'll grab these headers and I'll be red hot in a minute. Oh, 2 and 8. They're confused. That's all I can say. It's only a matter of time. Come on, sweetie. Let it idle for the minute and see if all the cylinders wake up, but you can hear it progressively getting better already. Just by this shake, you can tell it's not on heat yet. It's coming, oh, it's a little bit smoky. You never know, that might have been why she was dark to start with, might have been a bit smoky. You might idle it down. That's your idle screw just there. Just take a little bit of the load off her. Just let it come round a bit. Yup. I'll get a temp gun, we'll do this. Let's see which cylinder we've got. So all that bank is running. Okay, so it's number 2. He's only pretty cool. That was one of the dodgy spark plugs I put in though, so that could be the issue there. It could be that plug. It's definitely still got a real shake to it. Terrible blow-by. Oh no, I thought I could see smoke over here. I thought it was coming from the cover. It's coming out from under the cover. Still shaking a little bit. Oops, we put some water in it. You can still hear it down here. It's not quite clean. You can see the exhaust shaking. It's still on 7. 6 and a bit maybe. Now that just kept, I've hit the throttle and how that just stayed up in the idle indicates a vacuum leak somewhere. It wouldn't be my sketchy gasket, that's for sure. Definitely wouldn't be that. If I block that, I'll see if it does it now. So it's not the brake booster. So it's not the transmission vacuum modulator either. Maybe that's just timing now. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to loosen the distributor and just turn it ever so slightly, and if you hear the idle pick up, that's where it's happiest. You've got to wait till everything's good and hot though. Are you ready? We're down. check that with the light later, but I think that sounded a little bit happier when it came more advanced. And we'll just see if it holds onto those revs now. Not really. One cylinder, but I still think, just looking at that vibration, there's still one cylinder not quite happy. You can still hear it, just that boop, 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 that fluffing. We've got a heater tap leak. Oop. Time to put a cap on. If she's starting to force water out, I think I might give her a break. Hole number 2's not doing. It's number 2 cylinder, so we might check the plug on that one. Just chuck a timing light on and see where we're at. I don't know if you can see that there, but the problem is I don't know how many marks, how many degrees, but if they're 2 marks each stroke is 2 marks, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, it's between 12 and 14 degrees at idle. If that is 12 or 14 degrees at idle, I'm not unhappy with that. I'll leave it at that. It sounds a lot happier at that. I'll lock this down. Wait, see if I zap myself. Cylinder 2's out. It's warm, but maybe it's just transferring heat. I'll shut him down. Cylinder 2's warm, but that could be just transferring heat from the other cylinders, but he's definitely not running. There'd be no reason in this area. It'll only be a stuck valve, a burnt valve, a rusty valve, or one of those dodgy plugs. So I'll just change the plug. Now that everything's 8 million degrees is the best time to start swapping plugs around. What I might actually do to rule the plug out completely is swap it out of, say, cylinder 4, because I know it's running. It's now gapped on the concrete. Better than in my hand, because it'll be scorchingly hot. And if that way I swap the plug, I know 4 was running. If I swap that plug into 2 and it still doesn't run, we know it's not the plug. And if I put a different plug, can I do it without touching it? Yes. Righto, I'll fire him back up and see if we've got that cylinder. Straight up. There ain't nothing wrong with the old girl. She's loving it. So I reckon I'm just going to let it cool down for a bit. I might knock those rocker cover bolts back in. And then we might see if we can get it to move. I'll get the awning out of the way, check transmission fluid and see if we can't get him to roll. They're definitely going to be winner's beers today. See if I can find the hole. I have no idea how hot that is either. Who would have thought? Far out. So go back and do it again, Mike. Do it 2 or 3 more times. I've got like 10th degree burns, but I've got that side in. Fortunately, I get to do it all again. I might have to loop that heater hose sooner rather than later because it's leaking pretty bad. Yeah, because that's the biggest concern that I have. Drongo. There's a word I haven't heard in a while. Drongo. I can't get over how hot that alloy is. I thought that was alloy's thing, it didn't get as hot. Screw you, alloy. We need to check this transmission fluid. It's got some, but you've got to check it warm, running in neutral, I believe, but having gone through the gears to fill the valve body. That's barely registering, so let's put some transmission fluid in it. I wonder if that's why the dust cover was off. Maybe it had a... Oh, Jesus. Just spat back at me. I was thinking if that was why the dust cover had bolts taken out of it, was it having transmission issues? Did it have the converter seal leak? That we will find out in about 8 seconds, I'd say. Righto, so start him up, pull him through the gears. Well, I can tell you, it's got gears, but it's got no brakes. I just pulled it into gear and it went backwards, panicked, pulled it into drive, ran over the camera, but it's in park now. So it's got gears. I'll do it again, but this time I'm ready for it. Well, it moves, but I've got absolutely no brakes, not any, nothing, not anything. Pedal straight to the floor, you have to pull it off the floor. See what's going on with these brakes. Do you reckon that's got something to do with it? I reckon it might. I reckon I can drive it, hey, just a little bit. There's nothing wrong with using reverse as a brake, is there? It drove. So it's beer time for absolutely certain. And listen, if I was a smart man, like I was saying, if I was a smart man, right now I'd go, well, that's a win. It drove. I'll see you next time and thanks for watching. But I never said I was smart. Tomorrow, I'm going to try and flush those brake lines. And follow me on this train of thought, okay? So here's where I'm thinking. It's really rusty. Really, really rusty. We got it to run, so then it's a V8. We got it to drive under its own power. So then is it a V8 conversion? Like motor, transmission, the headers are there. If I can get it to drive well, do you start to think, is it worth trying to do some rust on it? If every line's rusted out and every caliper's seized up and all the rest of it, then I guess that makes up your mind. But after tomorrow, I think we'll know if this is worth saving rust-wise or worth having a go at rust-wise, or whether it's beyond it. I haven't even looked at the calipers or the drums to see if they exist. Not even the handbrake works, so I literally have no brakes. Anyway, one step closer. It runs good. It actually runs really good. Got all 8 cylinders just by changing that plug out. Anyway, so I guess I'll see you in the morning. I'll just start it once more. Do you remember what that looked like yesterday morning? I've got to tell you, they're pretty resilient, these old things, aren't they? Righto, now I'll see you in the morning. I think later today, I'm going to go through the back of that ute and see if we can find some bonnet bolts, because I'm getting sick of lifting that off. I know the hinge springs are there, we just got to see if we can find the bolts. Bolts are back on. But for now, let's get into these brakes. We'll get stuck into cleaning that crap out. That's thick. Yeah, that one's the same. It's just still got some fluid. So obviously, that's never going to be found again. Obviously, there's a leak somewhere up front, which we'll worry about that after we actually get that cleaned out and some fluid in it. I'm literally just going to try and mop it up and hit it with some contact cleaner. Clean the base of the master out and go from there. Get some fluid in it and see if we can't force it through till we find a leak. That's looking about as good as it's going to get, so I'm just going to add fluid, get it jacked up, get all the wheels off, and then just start pumping and see where our leak is. So I don't need to look far. I give that 2 pumps and I can actually hear air escaping. You reckon that's our brake leak? So the line under here's been damaged. Look at the big bend in it. And it's squirting out everywhere. But that's not our only point of failure. If you see at the bottom of the master there, we're leaking there too, just running down the master. So I'll try and knock this fitting out, that'll be the rear, block that off and ignore that leak. So to see if we can get front brakes, at least something. At least this one's no big deal. If I snap the line, I'll just bend it over and kink it. First go. So I'm just going to put a blanking plug in this master. There we are. And if you're wondering how I just happened to have the right nut, I cheated. I have a complete other master cylinder. I just went in, sat next to my box of bolts and found the right one. If you need one of those for your concourse restoration, hit me up on our social media. You can have it. I have a couple of them. So now the best we can hope for is front brakes, except for the leak. So really the best we can hope for is temporary front brakes. I'm going to be anything but gentle on this, so I'm literally just going to heat the whole show up, give it a bit of a tap and just start pumping. See if I can get anything to come out of this. There we go. Either that or I'll get absolutely nothing and we're no worse off than what we were. Well, I got it undone, but nothing running out yet. Give that, tapping the caliper that way, hopefully I'm pushing the piston in a little. Just gentle, don't go cracking at it. Or do, depending on your mood. Let's see if I can get some fluid. Anything? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Hot? Not too bad. Not too bad. I'm taking it completely out in case that's blocked, and it is. So we'll see if we get something coming out of the caliper now. Absolutely nothing. Right, so we're going to go back through the system. Change of plan. At this point I have incredibly low standards and I would settle for one temporary front brake. Temporary because that master's pissing out now. See if I can get out of this side. Got him. I could be wrong, but I thought I saw dust fly out of that. Not a good sign. Okay, so cracked it, but now it's locked up. So it's full of rust. I don't know if it's possible to lower my standards any lower. Oh. Okay, so that's now broken off and it's in the open position. I gotta tell you, I wasn't expecting that. Anyway, I'll give it a pump. And I'm actually gonna pray that I don't get fluid out of it, because now if I do, I can't shut it. And I'll have to block this one off. Wow, this is getting weird. Well, I got no fluid after pumping it, so in a funny way, that's a good thing. But now I've got to get the other side done. So now my only hope of brake, and I say brake, is this side. I'm going to trace the line back, see how far we've got fluid coming. So my master leak is getting worse. And I'm just going to trace this line. I'm going to crack it here, see if I've got fluid there. Then I guess I'm going to go to this guy and see if I've got it to there. And see if we can get it to the end of the rubber down here and just see where it's stopping. At this point I'd settle for a handbrake, just one drum, because I'm losing faith very quickly in the front. Right, I've cracked that. That should be enough to see if I've got fluid. That leak. Got a lot of air. I've got no fluid. Lots and lots of air, no fluid. So at this point, the issue is in the master. That is completely out. And nothing's leaking out. I get it then. Something went clunk. No. No, I did not. I have nothing. So obviously internally that is just full of slurry. Now this is sketchy, right? Tiny little bit. No, or a lot. It still didn't work. Still didn't work. So why don't I just swap the lines, turn the rear of the master into the front lines? I had fluid, clearly I had it leaking down the back, so maybe this one draining the fluid down and out is actually cleaner. So let's get my plug out. You with me? If I've got any fluid coming out this plug when I depress the brake, I'm going to put the front brake line You watch that. Any fluid? Yep. Righto, we're back in the hunt. So I'm now going to put the back line. Oh dude, the different thread. Oh, you're killing me, Holden. The different thread down there too. Probably say you can't do that. You're killing me. They're different. I thought I was so freaking clever then. I'm not. I'm not. So here's where we're at. The rear of the master works. I've cleaned this line, so that's the rear line, but that thread is bigger than that thread, so I can't thread it straight into the front line. I've removed the rubber line at the back of the caliper, and it's got fluid right at the end there, so I'd say it's relatively clean. I'll blow that out with compressed air or something, and then if I get that to work, all I've got to do is join that and that, or just remake a line. Maybe I'll just take that off there, cut that off and join that straight to there, and then make sure it's long enough to reach to there. I don't know. Anyway, we'll keep going. Then I guess I've got to get the caliper to move, but I'll worry about that when I get this cleaned out. So I've now got the rear brake line. I've changed that from that larger thread. I've just tapped another, no, it's not tapped. What do? You flared it. I flared it. There. Put another flare and a small fitting that came out of there. So that's going to go straight into that brake line. Like so. And then I'm going to drop that straight down the inner guard. Like so. On there it'll go. And straight to the caliper. Right there. So I'm going to bypass all the other lines and all the other crap, and we're just running straight from the master straight to that one caliper. So if there was a graph or a scale of sketchy, I would say this is way up on the peak of it there somewhere. We're just going direct from that master straight to that one caliper and hope that I get some movement in that caliper. That's a lot of belief in that caliper considering nothing else has worked. Everything else has been seized. Anyway, we'll try. It really is so bad. Yet so good all in the one, because it's going to work. I can feel it. Righto, so now if I put brake clean in that brake line, I'm getting brake clean come out my caliper. So now in theory, if I join this back up, I should be able to get fluid in my caliper for the 16th time of trying. Well, I just gave it 2 pumps and the fluid level's definitely dropping in that front section. I've got nothing coming out yet though. I'll top him up and give him a couple more. This will probably explain my level of confidence right now. It's now a 1-circuit system, so I won't be requiring fluid in the back. Well, not that much anyway. It's not going to change height, so perfect. I'll just see if I get some fluid starting to run out that caliper, and once I do, I'll pop the nipple back in and start bleeding it. Well, that got it, so we got fluid. Now where's that nipple? So we can turn that. We've got some pressure there because that's definitely sticking to what it was, and I don't have my foot on the brake, so that's not great. There we go. So we've got some pressure. That's good enough for me. My standard is so low right now, I really don't care. Alright, so we need that seat, that terrible seat, out so I can get rid of my milk. Get rid of this before I fall off it. But before I do put the seat back in, I'm going to fix all that rust there. All that, there's holes everywhere there. It's covered with some black crap, so you sort of can't see through it, but there's holes absolutely everywhere. So take a look at this for rust repair. There you go. Johnny Walker can, urethane. Yep, urethane to the floor. Fixed is fixed. It just doesn't end. Like, it's a full, this stuff is just covering holes. I could almost put my hand through it, I think. Well, there you go. I can put my hand through it. It's all through there. So we're going to fix all of that before I put the seat back in. There we go. Now that that's fixed, we'll move on to the seat. Oh, there's no lever to open the tailgate, so that makes that easy. Plenty of rubber joint. I can see this is going to be torture just to find a couple of bolts. Oh, and if you're throwing old door cards out, don't throw that metal bit out. You need that to send the guys that make your new door cards. They're an exchange type of thing. Thank you. I guess there's a few things that can go back on it. I'll find some screws and chuck them in. Some very fancy valve covers. They're clearly mint. Oh, 4.2 badge. Holden. Some Kingswood badges. Oh, there's a coil lead that might have been handy. Anyway, I'll need them if I find the bolts. Even if I don't find the bolts, I'll need them. But I think all the rest is pretty much junk, so I'll just sift through these piles of leaves and see if there's any bolts in there. Okay, so this makes no sense at all. Find me a dent. There isn't one. Well, I tell a lie, there's one there. And a little tiny one there. Anyone doing up an old Holden ute that needs a rear floor? I think I just found your floor. It's had racks in it, you can see there and there. So I would say it's a tradies ute at one stage, but whatever they did, it wasn't heavy. There is not a dent to be seen. A little bit of surface rust here and there. How can that be joined to the rest of this ute? Holes everywhere around the screen. there, rotted out in there, rotted out back window, and then you come across that. Can't get over it. I expected just same as the rest of the ute, trashed, move all the leaves, just holes everywhere. There's a hole being drilled there, one hole. But dead set, not a dent in it. There you go. Anyway, I'll pressure clean this seat, although I think it's probably past that point, but I'll pressure clean it anyway. While that's drying, I've got another little job that I think I want to do. Oh, did not find a nut or a bolt, not one. So I've got to find some bonnet bolts. Oh, I wish I didn't open that. Flawless installation, I know. See how I went for gaps. Terrible. So that's done. I might as well put a few of these little parts back on it as well. So it looks complete. It's very important. They made the world of difference. Except that one's that bent, it's not even sitting flush, whatever. And probably the last thing I'll do while that seat dries, so I'm just going to give these old hot wires a little bit of love. I'm just going to get the sander and just run it ever so gently up those spokes and around the edge there, and then around the actual lip. Just going to use some fairly coarse 240 grit because it's pretty badly pitted. Then once I wash them down, I'll show you one I've already washed. No, I've already sanded, now I've washed it. Once that dries, I'm actually going to haze some black over the center of it, and then while that black's still wet, get some thinners on a rag and just wipe that very edge, wipe the black off. Just saves me trying to mask every spoke. We'll see how it goes. They can't be any worse, put it that way. We'll get this seat in it. I keep forgetting about that door. It's like it has 2 bolts in it. It's good enough. I still feel like I need some sort of body cocoon to put on before I sit in that seat. However, and now I'm just going to try and make this door that little bit better. Oh, I see. I see. They're not doing them up. They were undoing them and they can't get them undone. They're solid, they're locked solid in there. The pillar's that rusty. Look at this. I would say they were removing the door, not putting the door back on. Look at the rust there. So that whole pillar is fairly compromised. I would say they've literally locked them up to the point where I'm not going to be able to undo them or do them up. I'll try that bottom one, but Nope, no chance in hell, and if I snap it off I won't have a door at all, so there we go, perfect. I think that might have been the final straw in deciding this one's fate. I need something to sit on. That's terrible. That's better. Oh, that's much better. Well, oh, she's even quieting down. She's not rattling as much. Up here, success story. Out around here, failure. Let's see if my one brake will hold us when I put it in gear. Yes, except my pedal's stuck to the floor now. You just have to retrieve it manually. Maybe I can get a piece of wire and just pull it back up. So is it stuck now? Brakes off. Not returning, but it's good enough for me. So are you ready for this one? So I've got a piece of wire that's tied to the back of the pedal, and I've got this amazing handle. So if that pedal sticks down, I can pull it back up with my, let's call it an emergency lever. Little pieces of me right now are saying, stop it, Michael, stop it. And other little pieces of me are saying, glorious victory awaits. Yes. Yes. Well, we're away. I'll give my brake a little test. Well, it's not good. She's locking up, but she stopped, so that's good. Release, and away we go. Flawless almost. Almost. See how far I can't get. Speedo works. Doesn't look like anything else does. Oh, it wants a code. It's the only reason the radio wouldn't work, I suppose. This one's going to be fun. Okay, so I feel like I'm fighting piss off fly. I know, it should be hanging around the car, not me. Fucking hell. You got to say things like, that's not going anywhere. And I know I've got a second. Start again. You know, oh, I just squirted the camera with that WD, I lent on it. Before we get rained on, I think we're going to get pissed on here. Here's a funny one for you. Hear the siren? You wait, the neighbour's dog, God, it hates sirens. It's so funny to listen to. You wait for this dog. That's the dog. He hates sirens, or she, whatever it is. Wait for it, it gets better. The poor thing, it must do its head in. I guess there's not a lot of good I can say about the body on the HZ, but I've already decided what I'm doing with this one. It's a V8 conversion. I'll find another vehicle with no motor, no transmission or something like that, that's in a rust-free or a lot better shape, and it's V8, headers, automatic, tail shaft if I need it, even radiator isn't leaking. It actually runs really good, which if you cast your mind back to a couple of days ago, I had my doubts. No carburetor, the intake full of rat's nest. Anyway, it's running good. It's not ticking, it's not rattling, it's doing everything it's supposed to do. Turns out I didn't pay too much for it. I got a cheap V8 conversion for a better car than the poor old Ute. There's still parts on it. If anyone needs a Ute floor, get on our social media. Message me through there, Facebook or Instagram. You're more than welcome to cut that out. There's barely a dent in the damn thing. Probably the best bit of the whole body, which blows my mind. But anyway, enough talking. I gotta go and get started on the next episode, so I'll see you next time, and thanks for watching.